Hi, this is Sean Bible. I'm here to talk to you today about probation revocations. What probation is basically if you plead guilty on some kind of criminal case, whether it be misdemeanor or felony, you're put on probation. In layman's terms, it's basically the judge saying, instead of incarcerating you, I'm going to let you stay out, report to a probation officer for some set of time, and you're going to do these conditions. I have a lot of people call me about these. And unfortunately, not all attorneys really discuss in depth what probation involves. They just maybe want to close the case, get their client done with, plead guilty. You know, it's just probation. The problem is that I see probably in our local jails, at least half the people there are there for probation violations, not for new crimes. And so a lot of people do have problems with probation. I want to talk about kind of divide it into two areas. One's misdemeanor probation. Let's say that you have a speeding ticket you can't pay, or you get a DUI, some kind of misdemeanor crime. Usually the probation officer you report to there is actually a private company. There's somebody that the government has farmed this duty out to. Everybody's heard of kind of private jails. Well, there's private probation too. This private probation officer, now they do have to follow the rules, they do have to follow the law, but they're there to make a profit. But let's say you have a big speed ticket, reckless driving, DUI, you go to traffic court, you can't pay it. You'll be able to pay this through private probation. Especially with DUIs, there'll be some other stuff, community service, that kind of thing, that the probation officer will have to make sure that you do. Usually that probation only lasts about 12 months. It shouldn't be too hard for you, to complete, as long as you do what you're told to do. But you have to understand, if you don't do those, let's say you get a DUI and you just willfully don't want to do the community service, at some point the probation officer will get the judge to issue a warrant for your arrest. You will be arrested. You will be brought back to jail. One issue that has been in the news lately has been people paying fines through probation, the problems associated with that. I always tell my clients, if you have some catastrophe happen in your life where you're unable to pay, keep reporting to your probation officer. Just tell them that. Let's say you have some kind of illness, some kind of issue where you're unable to pay. You can't be locked up for that. You can't be locked up for not reporting and telling the probation officer about it, or not being willing to pay. If you have the ability to pay a fine and you don't, that can be a problem. But just remember, don't stop reporting because whether it's misdemeanor or felony probation, because you can't pay. If you legitimately have a problem, you just cannot pay because some event happened in your life, not because you don't want to pay, please keep reporting. I see so many people get violated for that reason. They think if they can't pay, they're going to be arrested and put in jail. Most of them are really put in jail for not reporting because they were afraid they couldn't pay. So just make sure, if you can pay, you have to, but if something happens, you become disabled, sick, that kind of thing, tell the probation officer about it, talk to them about it. What I like to talk more about, though, is felony probation. This is state probation. This can last for decades for people. You can be on felony probation from a year, sometimes for almost your entire life, depending on the seriousness of the crime. Sometimes, let's say, on more minor felony charges, you might not have any incarceration. You might go directly to probation. Other times, if you're incarcerated in prison or one of the probation detention centers, one of those kind of things in between jail and prison, you can be on parole for a while and then you go on probation. But what is probation? Again, it is basically, whether it's misdemeanor or felony, it's basically the judge saying, instead of incarcerating you, I'm going to let you stay out and follow these conditions. So let's say an example. Let's say you're put on probation for 10 years for some kind of drug offense. Now, when you're sentenced, the judge is going to say, I sentence you to 10 years to the Department of Corrections, to prison. But I'm going to wait and not do that and give you a chance to be on probation before I incarcerate you. So that's what it is. A lot of people don't get that. They think, well, I went in, I just got probation, it's over. No, it's not over. It's not over for 10 years in that scenario if you've been put on probation for 10 years. The things that are required with probation, on any probation, is you obviously can't use illegal drugs. You can't abuse alcohol. Probably best, not to use it at all when you're around your probation officer, of course. You have to work or try to work. You have to support your dependents. And so if you refuse to pay child support while you're on felony probation, that could be a problem. The biggest thing is you can't get arrested again, even for a minor offense. I see a lot of people, they've been on probation for years, they think they put this thing behind them. Maybe they're on what's called unsupervised probation, where they're just calling in. They get arrested for some minor offense. They don't think much about it. They get bonded out of jail. A few weeks later, somebody knocks on the door and they get a felony probation violation for this minor offense. But it's because when you're on probation, you cannot violate the law in any way. Does that mean if you get a speeding ticket, you're going to go to jail? No. But anything you get arrested for will violate your probation. Even if you're reporting, let's say you're on probation here, but you move to another state, Georgia will bring you back if it's felony probation, charge you with felony probation violation. If you think you've done something to violate your probation, of course, contact an attorney. Don't do anything to hurt yourself. If you've been arrested, tell your probation officer about it. They're going to find out, especially if it's a serious crime. But after you do that, call an attorney, get legal advice. The mechanism for probation violations, if you're charged with it, even though it's something that can send you to prison, you can go to prison for a probation violation. You don't have a right to a jury trial. Basically what you'll get is a hearing in front of a judge, but you need representation at that hearing. You do still have due process rights. You still have a right to defend yourself in a probation violation, even though you won't have a jury trial. But just remember, if you are charged with a criminal offense, make sure you talk to your attorney in depth about what probation is, what the dangers are before you make a decision. Don't go into it lightly, especially felony probation. Thanks.